You need to understand that it's not some perfect world where you're some perfect person and you never get triggered again. But this version of yourself, if they get triggered, they react differently. Hello, my angels. So I have been triggered. I've been triggered. I know. I come online and I show myself to be a confident person, which I very much am. I've spent a lot of time in my self-development journey, my healing journey. Aren't we all? If you're clicking this video, you're in that same journey and you understand me and I understand you, and we're all going to become the best version of ourselves. But just because we are becoming the best version of ourselves does not mean that there aren't going to be days where we're going to be very triggered. I've been so triggered for the past few days, and I've realized that old wounds have come up. Things that I thought that I'd completely come to terms with, things that I thought that I'd acknowledged within myself, and apparently I haven't, and I still have a lot of healing to do. But what I'm not going to do is sit here and say, oh, that means that I'm just not the person I thought I was. Oh, I felt anxious. Oh, I felt insecure. Oh, that automatically just means that I'm not that person. No, key word here, I felt something. I felt something. I felt triggered. Does that automatically mean that I'm not a confident person anymore? No. Most people that you know that are confident, that have a way of holding themselves in the world, that show up for themselves, that believe in themselves, that go after their goals, these people still have insecurities. I'm sorry to break it to you, but I think a lot of us have this ideal version of ourselves that we have in our mind, and when we reach that version of us, we will now automatically never have any insecurities again. We'll never be anxious. We'll never feel any sort of bad feelings, negative feelings ever again. But that's just not reality. Life very much is a flow, and we're going to go into different states. We're going to be very much in our feminine energy sometimes, where we're soft, you know, we're nurturing, we're caring for ourselves. There's going to be other times where we're hustling, we're working, we're in our masculine energy. And then there's going to be times where you're just completely lost. You don't know who you are right now. You're figuring out, you're reinventing yourself. There's different cycles of life, and you need to give yourself compassion when you're going through this process, because it's never going to be just a straight line, and it wouldn't be fun anyway if we were just constantly one thing. We would not be able to feel the good if we didn't feel the bad. We would not be able to see how far we've come if we did not have a place that we started. So give yourself some compassion. And today we're going to talk about how I am going to move forward with the fact that I am triggered. So firstly, let me get into why I've been triggered lately. So I walked into a new situation recently where I really felt like I knew exactly how I would perform in that situation. But in this situation, I felt very anxious, and it's not something I'm used to. I felt like I was overanalyzing myself. I was being very self-critical with myself because I was not performing to the best of my ability. But you have to understand, I was in a new situation. I was out of my comfort zone. So it's very human that I would not know what I'm doing, and I needed to be more self-compassionate. But instead, I was being very, very self-critical with myself, which is a cycle that a lot of us get into when we start to feel triggered. Now, this can come from the way we felt during our childhood, the way we might have been invalidated in the past. For example, when you're growing up, someone might have told you that you're not good at school, you're not good at work, and then you go into now new situations and you think, oh, okay, well, I'm not good at this. Or you might have another experience where socially you had an awkward situation with someone, and now you go into situations and you think, oh, I'm not good at communicating with people. This happens all the time. It doesn't matter what it is. It can happen in so many different ways. But it's very important to be aware of it and understand the negative cycle, that you can go down this negative path, this negative cycle, just because of one experience. You go somewhere and you feel anxious, and now all of a sudden you're going to preface yourself as an anxious person. And that's just only going to feed into more anxious thoughts, which is now going to put you in more situations that you're going to be feeling anxious, and you might even avoid situations because of it, and now your whole personality has completely changed and you view yourself as an anxious person. But what I'm not going to do in this situation is, because I felt anxious recently in a new situation, is I'm not going to now say, okay, that's my identity now, I've been feeling anxious. Because what is it? It's a feeling. It's a feeling. It's not a label. And a lot of the time the feeling is an opinion. You feel something in your body, you're labeling it as anxiety. Okay, that's fine, but are you now anxiety? You are not anxiety, you are feeling anxiety. You feel insecure, but you don't have to now label yourself as an insecure person. You can decide if you want to just say, okay, I felt insecure that day, but how am I going to react to this? How am I going to move forward? What is the story I'm going to tell myself? So we need to change the stories that we're telling ourselves around the feelings that we're feeling. So that's the first thing that I'm now doing since I've been triggered in a new situation, and it's a new environment for me. It's very understandable that going into a new environment, you might feel old wounds come up from your childhood, from your past, feeling invalidated by people. I worked very hard to build up my confidence. I've always been quite a confident person, but there are times where I do feel anxious, and I think it's very normal. And people think that you're just always going to be perfect and you're never going to have bad days, you know, when you become the person that you want to be. But that's not how it works. We're constantly trying to become better, and we constantly have to give ourselves grace when there might be times when the world shows us that, okay, maybe I'm not as healed as I thought I was. Maybe I need to come back to this area and I need to put more attention on it. So you need to change the story that you're telling yourself as this being such a negative thing, and think of it as, what is this trying to teach me? And that's the way I'm looking at this now. So I've been in a situation the past few days and I've been feeling anxious, and I haven't been feeling these feelings in a very long time. Now I can change the story that I'm telling myself. So I'm telling myself now, what is this trying to teach me, and what can I do with this? And am I going to do some inner work to try and get to the root cause of this, or am I just going to ignore it and now label this as my new identity? You decide. So this is the first step. You need to actually take a step back when you feel triggered and actually say, what is my next step here? How am I going to move forward with this? And you can either, one, move forward with this with a lens of, okay, this is who I am now. I'm an anxious person. Oh, I'm insecure. Oh, I had a bad situation. I'm awkward. Whatever it is, you can move forward and label yourself, or you can move forward and say, okay, I felt triggered. What's the next steps here? What am I going to do? So give yourself compassion. Let me tell you about the next steps. So now we need to focus on a plan of action. Now, when I say plan of action, I mean, what are you actually going to do to change? You cannot just be aware of it and do nothing. That's not going to do anything. That's like saying, oh, I'm aware that I don't take care of my body, and then just keep eating the same way. This is the same way with your mind and your mental health. Just because you're aware of it, that's great. I'm proud of you for being aware of it and, you know, taking the first step to acknowledge, okay, I have a problem here. I'm feeling not good and I don't like how I'm feeling. Because some people, they feel not good, but they don't even disassociate from the fact that they don't feel good. They just think that they're not good. You're not feeling good. Okay, now what are the next steps? How are we going to go about this? Are we going to move forward and say, oh, there's nothing for me to do here, I'm just going to live in this reality? Or, what I'm doing now is I'm going to understand why I'm triggered. So in this situation, one of the first things I noticed is that I'm in a new environment, and I felt like I am not learning things as quickly as I should. But it's my first week. It's my first week at somewhere new, a new environment. And I could either tell myself the story, tell myself the narrative that I am not good at learning, and feed into this old wound that has probably come up from, you know, childhood, from other experiences I've had in my life that tell me that, okay, well, I'm not that good at learning. I'm not that good at picking up things quickly. I need time. Or I can say, no, that's fine. I give myself some compassion. That's absolutely fine. And I realize when I take the pressure off, I learn faster. But it's about the pressure. So now I'm getting to the bottom. Okay, I need to be more compassionate with myself and take time. Once I take time, I realize that I work a lot better. Once I give myself more ease and more space to actually work freely without so much pressure, and take away the opinions of others or my perception. Sometimes it's not even reality, my perception of people just thinking, oh, she's not working as well as she should. So I take away that. Then I need to look at, why am I feeling this way? Why am I so in my head? Why am I overanalyzing myself? And then it comes down to experiences I've had in the past. So you really need to get to the bottom of the experiences that you've had and why it's made you feel that way. And once you really understand why you feel that way, the one example to do this is to actually write down, okay, so let me give you an example. You go into a situation and say you feel, you know, you're not good at what you do. You say, why do I not feel like I'm good at what I do? Oh, because I feel like I'm not performing to the best of my ability. Why do I have to perform to the best of my ability? Because if I don't, then that means I'm not perfect. Or why do I have to be perfect? Because I feel like if I'm not perfect, then I'm going to mess things up. Or why do I feel like I'm going to mess things up? Oh, because I've messed things up in the past. Why do you feel like you've messed things up in the past? You keep asking questions, and sooner or later you're going to get to an answer of why you feel that way and what you need to do about it. You're never going to know the answer without asking why. You're never going to know how you're going to be able to be better or feel better and stop feeling this way if you don't ask the questions. You can't just expect things to happen out of nothing. You need to ask why. So you need to sit down, journal it if you have to, and just take time to really understand yourself and why you feel that way. So that's what I did. I said, I really had a conversation about it with someone, and I was like, I really feel like I'm overthinking, and it only seems to happen in certain situations. Most of the time I feel really confident, but it's like once I start to overthink if I'm good enough at doing something, I start to become too much of a perfectionist, and going back and forth with someone else, having a conversation can really help as well. If you don't feel comfortable, then you can journal this stuff. But I had a conversation and I really got to the bottom of, okay, I feel like I've been made to feel like I mess up in the past, so now I don't want to mess up. But now I'm giving myself grace, and I'm saying, okay, you know what? If I mess up, that's absolutely fine. Sometimes the things that we fear are not as big of a deal as the feeling makes it. So you might have an anxiety telling you, if I say the wrong thing, the world's going to end. But realistically, without the anxiety, take away the anxiety. If you say the wrong thing, what's going to happen? You said the wrong thing. Okay, that's it. someone might feel awkward, someone might feel weird. Is that really your problem? Is that going to affect you in 5 years? No. So you actually need to take away the value that you're putting on the situation and kind of just say, if the worst thing happens, cool, maybe it will, maybe it won't. Just take away the value that you're putting on it in your head. Sometimes we have too high standards for how we have to perform, how we have to be, and it's so draining. You need to take away all these standards and understand that if you mess up, that's absolutely fine. That's okay. Give yourself compassion, give yourself grace. You deserve that. So that's the second step. We are focusing on why do we feel this way. So once we know why, in these situations now, I'm going to walk in there, and if I feel anxious, my new reaction is going to change from the way I was reacting before. Now, it's going to feel uncomfortable. No one is going to change in one day. Even if you feel like you're confident half the time, like me, most of the time I'm very confident. I still walk into situations and I still get anxiety. I still feel insecure sometimes. I'm not a superhuman, and I think I can relate a lot more to people. And the difference between the old me and the new me is not just the fact that I'm this perfect person now, that I know everything, that I have everything figured out. The real difference is the fact that if I do get triggered, I know how I'm going to react to it. That's the difference between someone who is the best version of themselves and someone who is constantly staying the same. The best version of yourself might still get triggered. You need to understand that it's not some perfect world where you're some perfect person and you never get triggered again. But this version of yourself, if they get triggered, they react differently. So it's okay if you feel this way. It's okay if you feel anxious. It's okay if you feel awkward. It's okay if you feel like you're a perfectionist and you need to be perfect all the time, or that you're not doing enough, or that you're too hard on yourself, or that you're self-critical. It's okay. But the most important thing is how we're going to react. So this comes back to our plan of action and changing the way that we react. So now we know why. Now you're going to walk into that situation and you're going to say, okay, I know why I'm acting this way. I understand it's an insecurity. It's a deep-rooted insecurity. So now we need to do the work. We need to do the work to change how we're reacting in this situation. And if it comes to anxiety, which is mostly related to triggers, or if it comes to anger, anything that's triggering you, which is making you feel a very high level of emotion, you need to really look at it and think, what am I going to do differently here? And how is my old behaviors just perpetuating this cycle? If you go into a situation, for example, and you're constantly feeling anxious and all you are is in your head and overanalyzing yourself, clearly what you're doing is not working because it's just feeding the anxiety. But if you go into another situation and you feel anxious and then you change it and you say, you know what, I hope I feel anxious. You're going to shock your anxiety. You're doing something different. You're changing the way that you're reacting to this situation. And now your brain is learning a new way of coping. And now you're not running from it. I've noticed that in times where I felt so anxious, if I just accept it and I say, oh, you know what, maybe I will mess up. Maybe I will mess up. Okay, cool. Maybe I am being weird. Maybe I was awkward. Maybe that was an awkward moment. And then it's fine. It goes away. I really realized this. I don't care about awkward moments anymore. That's something I used to worry about when I was younger. If something's awkward, I just laugh. I'm just like, okay, I don't care. But like, that's something I've moved on from. But there's new triggers that come up for me. And it's like, oh, am I messing up? Am I good enough for, to do things? And most of the time I feel good. But then it comes back to that. And then it's like, okay, well, we've got a wound here. You've got a childhood wound. It might not even be a childhood wound. It could have been something that happened in your early adult life. It doesn't matter when it happened, but it's something that happened that is creating this false sense of reality in your mind and now changing the way that you see things. And how are we going to react to it? So now if I feel that way, I'm going to be, 1, compassionate with myself, 2, remember why I'm acting this way so that I can logically understand, okay, this is not just me, this is not a label of who I am, this is just a reaction. And a lot of the time these reactions are normal. It's okay that you feel this way. It might even make sense due to the experiences that you've had of why you feel this way. But just because it makes sense doesn't mean that it's true. So like I said, just because someone had a bad experience in a social situation one time, for example, and then they felt really anxious, doesn't mean that they need to be scared of it every single time. That's not how life works. They might go into another situation and take away that anxiety and they would have performed really well and that person would have really liked them. So you need to understand that just because you feel something doesn't mean it's true. So now you know why, you can more logically look at it and be like, okay, this thing's coming up, but how am I going to react to it? Change the way that you're reacting to the situation. Read, listen to podcasts, listen to books, listen to other people's opinions about how they deal with the problem that you have, so that you can now come into that situation and provide a new perspective. If you're just doing the same thing, you're not going to get any new results. The same behavior does not create new results. So you need to look at what other people are doing, how it's helped them. Like I said, with the thing where in the past where I might have looked at being awkward, I don't care about any of that stuff now. If I say something awkward, I don't care. But that's because I took the value away from it. So I'm giving you that piece of advice. If you you have that problem. So you want to just go online, listen, read, listen to podcasts, anything where you can now better yourself. As long as you're taking a step to actually move forward and change, you're going to feel better already. I already feel better in the past 3 days of feeling triggered, because I'm now reaffirming to myself it's okay. So I've already spoken about, you need to ask yourself why, you need to have a plan of action, you need to be self-compassionate with yourself, you need to stop judging these feelings. The more you accept the feelings, the more it's going to become something that is not so much of value in your mind, so that if you do mess up, if you do say the wrong thing, if you do feel anxious, if you do feel triggered, if you do feel angry, it's not going to have so much value in your mind. So we need to take away value. Now once we take away value, we can start to change our self-talk, because without the value, you will provide more of a space for yourself to now talk to yourself in a kinder way. So in a situation, I'm just going to keep going back to the social anxiety situation. I think a lot of people are going to be able to relate to this, but this could relate to anything. So in that situation, someone might feel very self-critical, but now they take away the value. They know why they feel that way. They know, okay, I've been triggered in the past, I've not been nurtured in the past, I've not been validated, so now I walk into situations and I'm very self-critical. And it might be one experience or several experiences within your life. So now you're self-critical, but now you know why. And now you're changing the way that you're approaching it, so you're more self-compassionate and you're taking away the value. So in the moment where you might normally be like, oh, you know, I'm always messing up, or why can't I do anything right, or I'm feeling really anxious, I can't say the right thing, you're gonna instead think, you know what, it's fine if I say the wrong thing, that's absolutely fine. That's taking away the value. That's the value taken away, because it doesn't matter if it goes wrong or right. And you'll notice when you don't care if something goes wrong or right, it's going to more likely go right, because you're not putting so much pressure on yourself to say the right thing, for example, to do the right thing. It's more natural, it's more of a feminine energy where you can now flow. This goes to men too. You can be in your feminine energy where it's just more natural, you're not forcing it all the time. We need both energies, but we need the feminine energy. Like, obviously you want to have a level of masculine energy where you're confident within yourself, but you also want to be able to just be free and sit back and understand that everything is taken care of. So instead of being in your head, you're now looking at it like, okay, that's fine if it goes wrong, take away the value. And now you can now, once the value is taken away, you can start replacing all those thoughts that you would have had where you were like, oh, I'm saying the wrong thing, I'm doing the wrong thing, I'm messing up, with, oh, you're fine, like you're amazing, I'm so proud of you, you know, instead of all that negative talk that you had in the moment. So now you're changing your self-talk, and eventually more and more you're just going to start to reframe how you're looking at the situation and how you're reacting. So I really think that this is helping me at the moment. I am someone who does not want to sit in a negative space for too long. I can become very triggered. I think it's very human, it's very natural for anyone to become triggered and have a high amount of anxiety at one or another point in their life. It can happen to anyone at any point in their life, it's very human. But what you need to do in these situations is understand that you have the power to really change the way that you react to this. And do you want this to be your new reality, or do you want to actually get to the bottom of why you feel this way and now change the way that you react? So I'm going to leave you with that today. I will probably do an update on this, because I am now applying all of these things for the situation that I've been feeling triggered in at the moment. I want you to know that I completely understand that you feel that way, and I'm very proud of you for clicking on this video. And the fact that you're even doing that, I'm very proud of you. Also, 30 subscribers, I'm basically famous now. I literally said I wanted to grow a YouTube channel this month, and I did it in less than a month. I've already got 30 subscribers and 100 views on my last video. I really appreciate you guys, and subscribe, because I post 2 videos every single week. A lot of the advice that I'm giving you guys, I follow myself. So even like today's video, I'm 100% following every single tip that I'm giving you guys in this video, and it's helped me so much. So you can always rely on me to practice what I preach, and I'm right there with you on your healing journey. As I always like to say in my videos, just because this is a new channel does not mean that I'm not speaking facts. This is Waves Unleashed, and I've just unleashed some waves on you.